All right, let's jump right into this. Welcome to today's explainer. Look, if you're tuning into this, you've already crossed a massive threshold. You aren't just thinking about starting a business anymore. You actually pulled the trigger and took action. But now you're facing a totally different beast. It's no longer about starting, it's about continuing. So today I'm putting on my business mentor hat. We're going to pull directly from Jonathan Reed's amazing book, Start a Business from Zero, Build Skills, Change Behavior, Create Stability. We're going to take that chaotic, totally exhausting startup hustle and we're going to flip it. We're transitioning you into a boring but highly effective structured operating system. Because here's the real secret. Businesses don't actually grow from those 2 a.m. bursts of inspiration. No way. They grow from repeatable, practical stability in your day-to-day work. So how do we build that stability system? Well, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at why early businesses stall. Then, the psychology of consistent habits. Third, the 4 core business gears. After that, we'll map out the 90-day operating plan and routine. And finally, measuring consistency over motivation. Let's get into it. Section 1. Why early businesses stall. Let's do a quick reality check here. When you first launch, everything is running on pure adrenaline, right? The excitement, the novelty, it's a total rush. But naturally, after you get those first few wins, that initial spike in motivation absolutely plummets. It happens to everyone. And because you don't have a stable structure in place yet, your effort becomes completely uneven. Think about these 2 mindsets. Founder A, they work insanely hard for a week, burning the midnight oil, and then they crash. They literally stop working for days out of pure exhaustion. Then you have Founder B. Founder B follows a simple, honestly, kind of boring weekly routine. But they do it every single day. So who wins? Founder B, every single time. Not because they're working harder, but because they're consistent. A business just can't survive if it's only eating off burst motivation. Which brings us to section 2, the psychology of consistent habits. Okay, I'm putting on my performance coach hat for a second here. You have to make a psychological shift from excitement-based goals to discipline-based habits. You know, when clients tell me, hey, I just don't have the motivation right now, my response is always exactly the same. I tell them, we aren't going to try to make you feel motivated. Actually, scratch that. We're going to build a system that tells you exactly what to do when you absolutely don't feel like doing anything. A huge trap for beginners is thinking they need to stay flexible. But without a system, you wake up drowning in decision fatigue. You know the feeling? Asking yourself, okay, what should I do today? Am I doing outreach? Should I plan a new product? That constant deciding literally drains your personal energy before you even click a mouse. Structure totally removes that burden, protecting your energy for actually getting the work done. And that's exactly where behavioral momentum comes into play. Think of it like a giant heavy flywheel. Pushing it that very first time, it's incredibly tough. But small, structured, repeated actions get it spinning. And once that thing is spinning, it takes hardly any effort to keep it going. That is behavioral momentum in action. A rock-solid routine manages your personal energy so well that the system eventually just carries you forward. Yes, even on those days when your motivation is sitting at absolute zero. Moving right along into section 3, the 4 core business gears. Okay, so structure is great and all, but what exactly are we structuring? Well, we have to balance the actual functional blocks of a business. If we don't, the whole machine stalls out. There are 4 core gears here. Lead generation, finding the people. Sales, converting that interest into actual customers. Delivery, doing the work and creating the results. And finally, administration, keeping the whole shebang organized. Think of them literally like gears in a clock. A really common trap for beginners is going all in on delivery or planning and totally ignoring lead generation. But here's the thing, if even one gear stops turning, the entire clock stops. Your weekly routine absolutely has to balance all 4 of these. I absolutely love this thought. Your weekly rhythm is like a heartbeat. It doesn't need to be intense. It needs to be regular. Running a business is exactly like following a physical training schedule. You don't get strong by going to the gym once for a massive, agonizing 10-hour workout, right? No, you get strong from repeated, manageable sessions over a long period of time. It's that steady, regular heartbeat that actually breathes life into your business. Let's look at section 4, the 90-day operating plan and routine. How do we actually put this into practice? And why a 90-day plan? Well, research shows that mid-range timeframes are the absolute sweet spot. 90 days is long enough to actually see meaningful results, but it's short enough to keep your focus laser tight so your goals don't feel super abstract. The name of the game here is simplification. If you're just building your work system right now, please do not overcomplicate it. The absolute core of a stability strategy really just boils down to 3 radically simplified steps. Step 1, define what matters. Step 2, schedule it. Step 3, repeat it. That's it. Creating structure doesn't mean doing every single thing every single day. That's just a fast track right back to overwhelm. It just means doing the right things consistently.
Let's look at how to practically apply that using a concept called behavioral chunking. Basically, you just assign specific core actions to specific days of the week. So Monday, that is strictly for outreach and lead generation. Tuesday is all about sales conversations. Wednesday is purely focused on delivery. Thursday is your day for follow-ups, and Friday is reserved for administration. See what we did there? You aren't desperately trying to juggle 4 spinning gears at once. You are just turning 1 gear per day. This creates massive predictability. It drastically cuts down on overwhelm, and it makes figuring out what you need to do each day incredibly clear.
But listen, before you go off and create a massive color-coded spreadsheet, let me give you some grounding advice as your mentor to help you dodge the perfectionism trap. A simple system you follow is better than a perfect system you ignore. Let that sink in. If your routine looks completely flawless on paper, but it's just way too hard to actually maintain with your real, actual life, it's gonna break, for sure. Sustainability always beats intensity. Finally, Section 5, measuring consistency over motivation. Once you've got your 90-day plan and those weekly routines up and running, how are we tracking our progress? Well, it requires a total mindset shift in how we define a win. I'm going to challenge you right now. Stop measuring your business progress by how inspired you feel today or by whether you had a massive sales spike this week. Instead, start measuring your success by one single, simple metric. Did I follow my system this week? If you can answer yes to that, then guess what? You won the week. Because if you just monitor this one simple business metric, I promise you the results will absolutely follow. I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to chew on today. Consistency builds what motivation starts. Motivation is great. It got you to watch this explainer, right? It got you to start your project. But a repeatable structure, an operating system that you faithfully return to week after week, that is the only thing that's going to sustain it. Your business isn't fragile anymore. So what small, maybe even boring action are you going to schedule for this coming Monday to keep your flywheel spinning? Think about it. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.